for you to discuss why you're running for Congress and why Bronx is such an important place for you. You're born and raised here, and you want to give back to the community. I just want to know why that's so important, and why did you have to run for Congress specifically?
Well, the polls are actually open right now to tell all of your viewership. They're open until the 21st, and then election day is Tuesday. So if you wanted to avoid the lines, you can totally go into an early voting polling station right now. And to answer your question, the reason why I'm running for Congress, well, as you know, I've been the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. I've been doing that for a number of years. And before that, I was a financial advisor, helping Black and brown people create generational wealth, retirement plans, college savings, all of these things. But the reason why I chose to work on a federal level and why I'm choosing to represent the Bronx. Representing the Bronx, number one, that's where I was born and raised. And what people don't know about my district is it's one of the poorest congressional districts in the entire nation. So this is like ground zero for bad health, for lack of adequate housing, for poverty. Our median income here is only $28,000 a year. People in my borough have been suffering, and we've seen no changes. And I'm 35 years old. Yes, I'll say it. I'm 35 years old. But the Bronx is starting to look a little bit shinier, but the poverty here is still dire. It still exists. Now, why I'm running on a federal level? Because that's a great question. A lot of people say, oh, if you really want to help the Bronx, why didn't you run for city council? Why didn't you run for a state level position? Because I feel as if I can change the Bronx, I can change the whole nation. I can eradicate poverty with the policies I'm proposing. What happens here in the laws that I'll now have the ability to change will be everything that I'm fighting for. As before, I would have to go to politicians and ask them, hey, can you pass this law? Can you pass this law? And a lot of them were afraid to do so. They didn't want to disturb the status quo. Now the laws that I'll have the ability to write, they'll affect everyone in this country, from urban cities to rural America, for Black and brown. Today, we just heard amazing news about DACA continuing. But what we really need is a true and clear and easier path to citizenship. It shouldn't be so expensive, immigration. It shouldn't be so hard to become an American. So that's something I'll also have the ability to do. I have the ability to fund proper housing, police reform, criminal justice, women's reproductive rights. These things can all happen with the stroke of a pen, but the people who came before me, they just didn't have the ability to do it, nor did they want to do it.
Chivona, just discussing Bronx as an area, what do you think are the major areas that need concern and that need focus? In terms of some of the issues that you're working on, I have an article here which says that Chivona Newsome hopes to be an advocate for universal basic income, Medicare for all, ensuring social security, preserving the rights of immigrants, members of the LGBTQ communities. There are a lot of causes you're working with. What is the most biggest concern for Bronx that you have to focus on with these issues?
It would absolutely be poverty, eradicating poverty, because we see when around the nation and around the world, we see when people are poor, they don't have good health care. They don't have good jobs. They are usually subjected to police brutality. They don't have adequate housing. So my biggest thing is eradicating poverty. It's absolutely economic development. And I've spent time talking to small business owners who look like you and me, and they have a hard time accessing funding that they need to grow their business. And small businesses are the backbone of America. It's a huge part of the American dream. But working and advocating and trying to eradicate poverty, Martin Luther King was working on a guaranteed income. It's the same thing as a universal basic income. Back then, he was asking for $30 million. Now, of course, with the cost of living, it's far greater. By giving every single person over the age of 18 $1,000 a month, and then $500 for each child, that changes things quite drastically. It helps our community. Our community is living, just so you can get a big picture of why I keep talking about extreme poverty, right? America's average wages happening here are, the average living wage in America is about $53,000 a year. In the Bronx, it's $28,000. We need to change that. We need politicians who care about people. My whole approach is humanity-led. Just because you're poor does not mean you don't deserve adequate health care.
Yes, Bronx and certain areas of New York are literally the epicenter of COVID-19 crisis. They have been hit so hard, and due to all of the racial disparities and other things that are happening, Black and brown communities are truly suffering during this crisis. My question to you would be, when we're looking at moving forward, and if you were to become a congressional, representative of this area, what are you going to do differently to make out of this COVID-19 crisis, especially the ones that are suffering so much, the immigrant communities, the Black and Brown communities?
Now, I foresaw back in early April, right in the beginning of sheltering in place, that the numbers coming out of my borough were high.
Yeah.
So on Facebook, because I'm actively engaged with my community, it was tons of memorials happening. People were grieving their loss, their loved ones. And we wrote to Governor Cuomo. We asked for more testing sites. We asked for more facilities for people to live, for more testing facilities. We also started something called the People's Food Program, where as of date, we fed 6,000 people. And a bulk of those people were affected by coronavirus. Now, what you have to think about is, why were the immigrants, why were people in the Bronx so hard hit and the Bronx became the epicenter of coronavirus? It's because of poverty. It's because we live in areas here in the Bronx where we have something called Asthma Alley, where we don't have adequate food, we have waste management, we have garbage disposals. So if you think back to 2015, when Legionnaire's virus, which is in the water, which is easily treatable, which is easy to get over, it killed people in the Bronx. Pretty much being poor was a predisposition to not being able to fight these viruses. Now, we created green new jobs, greener housing, had more environmental restrictions, had free health care, so people were getting preventative care. God forbid, and next time a virus like this comes around, we will be okay. We'll be fine.
How do you then handle the second surge that we are talking about? What are some of the preparations you have made with your organization and with your team?
Well, right now, we are still in preventative mode. We are giving out 100,000 masks to voters and anyone in the community who needs it. We're giving out hand sanitizer. We're letting people know about safety, because that's what we can do. As you've seen from the reports coming out of the CDC, it's expanding. So pretty much the virus is going into recession. So people are healing from the virus when there isn't enough time for vaccination. So all we can do is just try to prevent it. And when the virus does hit again, because it's looking like that's going to happen, when the virus does hit again, we just have to be prepared with the same resources that went to wealthy areas where early testing was available, where sheltering in place was easy. We have to have a plan. If the United States, that's why I'm saying we were failed so much, if the federal government and then our state and local municipalities had done preventative care, we would be okay. We would not have become the epicenter. So I think that moving forward fastly and swiftly, and what we're doing it from an organizational standpoint, I hope that we won't lose as many lives to coronavirus.
How do you combat the issue of food insecurity that has truly hit New York?
Well, New York has always had food insecurity. So what we have done is we've grassroots fundraised about $50,000. With that, we are feeding people by the day. We're constantly giving out food. So in addition to me campaigning, I have other members of the team going out feeding people. We're doing a large food giveaway tomorrow in celebration of Juneteenth, which is Freedom Day for Black people. And now we're working on partnerships with larger nonprofits to where they can continue continue delivering food always. And that's just something that needs to be in place. While I go to Washington and I can work on policy and work on better jobs and work on these things, so hopefully we won't need that. But in the interim, what we need to do is make sure we have food readily available for people. It's a shame that in America, one of the richest nations in the whole entire world, that people have to wait on bread lines for food. And I think it's despicable. And I think that any government official who's allowed that to happen to our people, it needs to be voted out.
You know, Chivona, when you are interacting with the constituents right now and you're having the first-hand experience, I know you're on the field right now as well while we're speaking. What are some of your biggest concerns besides the housing crisis that is very apparent in the Bronx area? What are they coming up to you in terms of their concerns and stuff? And how much of that is impacted by COVID-19 right now?
Well, a lot of people, as you know, last numbers I checked, it was about 45 million people who are jobless. So a lot of people have no job here. A lot of people are losing their health insurance. Even my very own mother has been furloughed and she has pre-existing health conditions. She has autoimmune with arthritis. So it's even touched really close to home. But for the people in my community, it's a lot of uncertainty, because we know when there's a down economy, we know that affects Black and brown people and immigrants the most. People are confused. They need leadership. They need guidance. People are afraid because a lot of people have not been able to pay their rent. And I've been calling for, I believe there was just a rent freeze that happened, but we need a full rent cancellation. So once the virus is gone for a while and the world opens back up, assuming people do have jobs, a lot of people are going to be going to housing court. There's going to be mass evictions happening in the Black and brown community if government officials from the federal to the state and the local level don't step in. I think the first month into Corona, 1 million people didn't even pay their rent. So like 1 million people in New York City hadn't even paid their rent.
Wow. That is quite shocking, details that, you're sharing with us. And I think it's so important for us to have more discussions about it to actually let the audience know what's happening. If you were to become a congresswoman and represent Bronx, what is going to be on your first 100 days agenda? And, how much of that is going to deal with this housing crisis and also racial justice, which I look forward to having a good discussion about as well.
I was smiling because this morning when I woke up, before I got ready to step into the world of campaigning, I was actually thinking about my first 100 days. And the goal is, okay, yes, I'm a smart woman. I have leadership skills, but I want to call in experts. I mean, urban planners have a huge roundtable meeting conference and develop a concrete plan on how to eradicate poverty here, how to bring in housing here. I want to just have a meeting of the minds with economists and people who specialize in these areas that are affecting us, environmentalists, so we can clean our air, so we can put people back to work, because it's not one thing that's going to save this borough. This borough has been like this, I can attest, for at least the last 3 decades and long before that. So immediately a meeting of the minds and definitely proposing legislation for a guaranteed income. And in terms of racial justice, because you had asked that, I've already began working on that. So on the 6th, that was June 7th, we had a rally in Times Square with about roughly 25,000 people. Yeah. And we unleashed something called the Black Act. And so far, the New York State Governor Cuomo has conceded to 3 of the laws that we've already proposed. So New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio was calling for defunding the police, because they have a $6 billion budget here in New York City, and our schools are failing. It makes no sense to have a militarized police when we have a National Guard and we have a military. So taking some money from the police to put that into education and to put that into social programs to serve our community. We also had repealing 50A, which recently passed, which we've been fighting for a very long time. And for your viewers, 50A was something where if the police department brutalized citizens, if they pepper sprayed them, beat them, or whatever misconduct they had in their job, but under the old law, the NY-PD had the ability not to share that information with the public, even if an officer went on trial. So we have had some wins. And I also went to Minneapolis, and I also was in LA for a little bit. And in LA, they're calling for the defunding of police, and in Minnesota, and they're actually trying to eradicate the police department. So I'm working on laws now. Like, say when I win on Tuesday, I won't have the ability to write laws. And I refuse to sit back and wait until January. I'm not going on vacation. I'm still going to push politicians who are currently in office to change laws that affect our people.
And, just talking about the racial injustice, and this is a topic that's been discussed for the last couple of weeks since the death of George Floyd, as well as now Rayshard Brooks and many others who have, succumbed to police brutality. You are a member of Black Lives Matter, and not only just a member, you're a co-founder of the Black Lives Matter Greater New York chapter. The Black Act was revealed by you and your team to sort of give an answer back to what has happened. What are some of the major areas for racial justice that needs the most amount of work right now? And, what part of the Black Act could we take right now and actually add into our Constitution to really make it better and have more answers?
Well, the Black Act, why it was so important is because it was inclusive. And what most people don't understand about Black Lives Matter Greater New York is we fight for more than police brutality. We fight for the liberation of Black people. And if you've noticed throughout history, once Black people are liberated, all other marginalized groups, tend to get the same rights. So we were calling for a Green New Deal. We're calling for more affordable housing. And HUD, which is our federal agency, has not done anything for public housing or for Section 8 vouchers when we need to add 12 million new pieces of housing. That's people's biggest problem. In terms of police reform, the first couple of laws that we were proposing, those are already happening. These things are totally happening already. So we're having the defunding of police. Governor Cuomo is bringing in a special prosecutor. So as we speak, the laws that we propose are currently happening. And I don't think that there's any other politician or any person running in my race or who has been elected who's making that happen. You know, so just think about from a revolutionary standpoint, because I'm not a career politician, I'm already affecting laws to change. Education. We need to really fund education on a federal level. And that's something that can absolutely happen right now. So everything that we discuss is totally feasible. Nothing that we talked about or unleashed on the Black Act, which you can find on my website at Chivona Newsome for Congress.com or blackopportunities.com. It's easy to adopt.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think it's quite incredible that right now there is so much reform happening in the country. When we're looking at police, we're looking at racial equality, we're also looking at systemic racism and, what that means to the community. We are coming towards an end of this interview, but my question to you would be, there's so much that's happening and there's so much change that's needed in the system, which is quite apparent. You're running for such an important position. How has this experience been for you, from campaigning to actually working on legislation that can make a difference? And, personally, how important is this race for you?
This race means everything for me. It means changing America. And I know a lot of people who vote and a lot of people who live here think that it's impossible. But if you can see from the things that happen in the Black Act, if we have radical and revolutionary leadership, all these things can happen. Running for office, I was told that it would be one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And to those people, I want to tell them you were absolutely right. I have not taken a break in 14 months. I don't sleep very much between the social justice and the campaign life happening, but my community is worth it. Humanity is worth it. So if I have to sacrifice myself for the betterment of this world, then I'm here for it. And I'm grateful to take the challenge. And I'm going to be grateful on June 23rd when I am elected into the 117th Congressional of Congress.
What did you have to say about your opponents that are, there are several candidates that are running for this race against you? What do you have to say about them and how different is your issue and your movement?
Well, I was actually the first Black woman to run for this seat. And I've faced microaggressions. I've faced flat out racism. I was called the N-word by someone viewing the debates now that they're done on Zoom. I've gone to women empowerment events at our local Democratic club, and I've been told by leaders that I should run for a lesser seat or I should stay in the kitchen. But what they don't know about me and the lineage of people and ancestors who I come from is it's only made me stronger. And to a lot of the people who I'm running against, which if your viewers went and looked back at the old debates, they praise me for the work that I have been doing on the ground. It's because they're politicians. I am nothing like them. I believe in revolution. I believe in radical change. I believe in swift justice. I believe in justice for all. I think that they respect me, but they know that our views are so different. They want to take office and they want things to remain the same because it has benefited them, even at the detriment of people. We have Ruben Diaz Sr., who is a fan of Donald Trump in this day and age, who's running. This seat is what your viewers need to understand is this is the most Democratic seat in the country, meaning Obama, Hillary, everyone who won the Democratic primary has won by over 95%. So we have someone like that running here, which is unbelievable. Also, we have several people who ran for public advocate who lost that seat. So they're just looking for an easy job. We have about 2 candidates who don't even live in this district, but they feel that it's easy. They feel they won't have to do anything to please the people of the Bronx. And as a lifelong Bronx resident and a native of here, I just can't stand for it. So I think the best choice for our community and for this nation is for the world to get behind a candidate like me.
What do you have to say to your team that have worked so hard with you in this campaign and have really mobilized on such a grassroots level? I love it. I love grassroots mobilization. It's the
I'm a,
easiest way to connect with everybody. What do you say to your team?
I love my team because as I'm talking to you right now, I'm not sure if your viewers will be able to hear it, but I hear them on the bullhorns. I can literally see out of the windshield and see them chasing people down and giving out flyers in cars. And just so people know about the Newsom for Congress team, no one's being compensated. We didn't have a big budget. It's very hard for first-time candidates, especially Black women, to raise a lot of money. So everyone is out here because they believe in me, they believe in what I stand for, and because they truly love me. I would like to say thank you because I am nothing without you. On the days that it got hard, I got tired, everyone they believe in me so much. How could I not believe in myself? So my team's my everything. And what I like to say is we're not a campaign, we're a movement. So thank you to everyone near and far who are part of the movement. It's people helping from all around the world to make this happen in terms of calling people on the phone, reposting on social media, the influencers who have loaned me their platform. I'm just grateful to every single person who's joined the movement.
You know, Chivona, this was so great having you here on ITV Gold with us. I'm so glad that we're talking to candidates that are running for positions that truly matter and that can, bring more change in. For everyone that's watching you, I would love for you to address why they need to go and vote on June 23rd and also in November, and how essential that is to exercise that right. I think that'll be great to end the interview on that.
I think so. And November is really important, right? Because we've had someone, Donald Trump, who has separated our nation for a long time. But right now, the primaries are actually far more important. And I always encourage people this is a general election, so of course there's going to be a larger turnout, but people need to show up for every single election. The people who represent you locally, as big and as great as the office of president is, they have the vast impact. They have the majority of the impact on your day-to-day life. From all types of legislation, from housing justice and environmental injustice, even down to the city and state level on your taxation, on anything that occurs to you. I know that a lot of people abstain from voting because they feel as though nothing changes, but I challenge those people who are leaders in their community to go out and run for office and for the community to get behind them and support them. So I encourage everyone to go out to early voting, which is happening from today until the 21st, and election day is Tuesday. So I pray that I'm victorious, and I hope that everyone will let me represent them in Congress. Thank you.
I wish you the very best for this run, and I think it's so incredible to see someone so passionate about community service and really giving back. Thank you for your time again on ITV Gold, and again, good luck to you, and I really hope our audience goes out and votes. So important.
Absolutely. We do have a large Indian and Bengali and South Asian community here in the Bronx, and I am grateful for your support. I haven't seen you come out to the polls. Thank you so much. Newsom for Congress.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Yeah, let me stop.